Yes, hello. Good afternoon. This is Daniel 7 of 7 uh, here. I'm doing just a very quick video. I uploaded one today already about, you see my positions and the actions against my wife and I in 15 videos. So I wanted to point out my religious beliefs in a video. And you can see my kippah here. I wanted to show it. It's very beautiful. It came from Israel, and the reason why I got it was because of the many colors of Joseph's coat as a little boy. He had a coat of many colors, which his mother made him, to which his brothers, the other children of the tribes of Israel, were very jealous of Joseph. Because he had visions, and he would come to the dinner table and tell his father Jacob and his brothers these visions, and they'd all laugh and giggle at him. At one point, Jacob said to Joseph, "Am I to bow to you?" Jokingly. But truly, even though his father Jacob criticized Joseph, at the table, Joseph would say to his brothers Reuben and the rest, "Last night I had this dream," he would say, And they all became very angry at him because he kept talking about his dreams. But his father knew, Jacob, in his heart, that Joseph was very special. Indeed he was. Not to be forgotten, not by me, that's for sure. I wanted to indicate in my video a couple of things, a very short one. That I know the history of my people like the palm of my hand. And soon, you'll all be able to access my videos. Okay, I'm going to stop the government of Canada. I have to go around and purge them to stop them, so that my videos are opened up to the general public outside of Canada, and not selected individuals who are responsible for the things that I disclosed. Now, what I wanted to talk about briefly, I'm going to keep this video short and I'll upload it, is this. I was looking on YouTube at the droughts going on around the world. Iraq, China. I just saw one on China. The United States, Europe. Okay, these droughts. I wanted to point out to people that, the mention biblically of the Euphrates River drying up and armies crossing those rivers, those river beds that dried up. This is very true. This is what the book of Revelation said. And regarding that particular item, regarding the Bible and the Torah and the New Testament, you have to understand that it's very hard for people to interpret the interpretations correctly. A lot of people try, Begley even tries, Paul Begley, but his, for example, Ezekiel 38:39, which he tried to interpret, his interpretation was incorrect. Okay, I read both in my Bible after Paul Begley did his little interpretation, and I find that Paul Begley's interpretation to be quite false. Okay, for two reasons. Regarding, for example, Ezekiel 38:39, either it happens after World War III, or it already happened. I could tell in Ezekiel 38:39 the mention of gathering up the enemy's arms that invaded Israel and the Israelis burning them. Okay, those indicators there clearly indicate without any doubt that they were talking about bows and arrows. You see, because Paul Begley tried to say this is going to happen, that Israel's going to burn all these arms. Okay, but the problem is that the weapons of today are made of steel. Steel does not burn. Okay, there was nothing in the 38:39 Ezekiel prophecy that indicated to me anything but that. Okay, Paul Begley tries to turn it into, this is going to happen. Okay, well, if it happens again, as he suggests, then it will happen to wars after the mechanical age of World War III occurs and is long over. Okay, and the remnants of the people in Shem, Ham, and Japheth that remained after World War III would be again riding horses and carrying breastplates and fighting with the weapons of old, which are, wooden bows and arrows and that kind of thing, and spears. So Paul Begley was wrong about that interpretation. Okay, he tried to manipulate people into believing that that armies that invade Israel now with steel weapons made of metal, that the Israeli people were going to burn them up. No, that interpretation is incorrect. Okay, so I wanted to let people know. Now, I've seen, as I said in the beginning, I've seen many videos already of the drying out of the rivers around the globe, and nations are suffering. China is suffering. China is a good country, and the Chinese people are good people, and their leader, President Xi, is a good leader. Okay, and so is President Putin's a good leader as well. These leaders are not, in my books, bad leaders. What's made them bad, if the West wants to call it that, okay, is the threats against them by Nazis. This is a racist Nazi conflict against Russia and China. That's what it is. Now, regarding, I don't want to get into that. The reason for this video is about the drying up that I'm seeing on YouTube, and I've been monitoring it. Okay, I will state to the audience that this goes as far back as Hillary Rodham Clinton, who was the United States Secretary of State. She knew that all the rivers were going to dry up. She even stated that down the road, not too long from now, the big fight is going to be over water. Water is going to be more valuable than oil. Now, that's exactly what's happening. Okay? But, you see, in the Bible, what I want to tell you all is in the Bible where you read in the New Testament where there was important information about the Euphrates River drying up, as Begley has mentioned, and armies coming across the dried up river regarding the final war. That which he said is true. But, you see, here's what I knew. For example, I'll explain something to you. When a prophecy involves one event, like for example in the book of Revelation, it says, a great star shall fall from the heavens, a mountain of fire shall hit the sea. Okay? We assume that means one object the size of a mountain, which is obviously a big asteroid. Well, quite clearly, this is how John would say it in the kind of language back then. I would imagine it was very difficult for him to explain it. For example, John would use eagles and birds for future prophecies, which mean warplanes. But here's the thing: eagles and birds, and the usage of those terms biblically and in the Torah and in the New Testament mean different things. For example, God said, "I carried out my people from Egypt on eagle's wings." That's us. That's our forefathers, the Jewish people's forefathers from Egypt, the Hebrew people. Now, he said, "I'm going to carry out my people out of Egypt on eagle's wings." Now, so what I'm saying to you is there's different interpretations of the meaning. Okay? Now, here's the point. When I already knew where it said in the book of Revelation that the Euphrates River would dry up, and this would, of course, be the sign that the armies will cross that river when it's dried up to attack, okay? Which is accurate. But people thought it would just be the Euphrates River, that the Euphrates River would dry up for that purpose, okay? You have to understand that for example, when John said a mountain of fire will come from the heavens and hit the ocean, he didn't mean one mountain of fire. He meant numerous mountains of fire. Okay? When it stated that the Euphrates River would dry up, as Paul Begley mentioned, and armies would come across to commit their attack, right? I already knew that statement meant all the rivers around the globe would dry up. You see, because let me tell you something, that what is within that sentence, that the Euphrates River would dry up because armies will sweep across, right? What this means is, this is the correct interpretation, I'll give it to you. What it means is, is that nation shall rise against nation, and they'll build up their armies on every corner of the earth. Okay? So because these nations, all of them, will gather up their armies in every nation, and that all these armies will cross the rivers that God has dried up. So when it was stated in the Bible that the Euphrates River would dry up because armies are going to cross that river to attack, let's take a look at China. China's rivers are drying up, right? Because, why? Because China's armies are getting ready to attack Taiwan. Okay? And I say this is a very neutral religious statement. Okay? If we look in the Middle East, right? Their rivers are drying up. Rivers in Iraq are drying up. All right? Rivers in Iran are drying up. Right? Why? Because Israel and Iran are attacking each other. They're going to, right? And then we have the attacks in Syria by Israel, right? So what this means is the correct interpretation of that statement that the Euphrates River will dry up and armies will cross that river. Look at the rivers drying up in Europe, right? As well. Their water's drying up. Why? Because they have armies to attack Russia. So what this means is that in this meaning, what God, the correct interpretation by God himself means that all the nations who have armies who are getting ready to start war, all their rivers are going to dry up. So God, what this means is God is saying that I'm going to dry up every nation's river who's getting ready for armed conflict and bloodshed. That is the correct interpretation. Do you understand? That is the correct interpretation. Because when we look geographically around the globe, we see the United States drying up, right? The United States, their rivers are drying up, correct? Like the Lake Mead and these other reservoirs that give the people water, okay? California's drying up. What's going on in America? Well, let's take a look. Joe Biden, the Antichrist advocate, along with Trump, okay? They are supplying arms and are committed to a war against Russia and China, right? The United States has its fleets in the South China Sea, along with its allies, okay, ready to attack China if China tries to take Taiwan, right? So what this means is that all these countries, okay, that are getting ready for war, all these countries that are threatening each other with war, okay, all of their rivers, God is going to dry up their rivers so they have nothing to drink. That's what's going on. Now, this is one of the most important videos I'm posting. Out of all my videos, this one here is the most important, okay? So, this is the correct interpretation, all right? And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let Paul Begley or even Steve Bannon or anyone else tell you that this is not the case. I've given you the correct interpretation. It's because, as Jesus said, right? Nations shall rise up against nations. Rumors of war, right? So God is drying up all their rivers. All these nations, okay, who are gearing up for war are getting punished by him. He's drying up their drinking water. And one of the reasons why he's doing this is because he wants this natural crisis, okay, to become their number one concern, okay, so that it stops them from focusing on war, right? And slowly but surely, they're focusing on it. This is what's going on. So I wanted to do this little video to tell people the truth. And that is the truth. And it's just like, remember what Jesus said? Jesus said in Luke 21, there'll be earthquakes in diverse places, right? Now, that statement means also that where John indicates what we think to be individual attacks by God, for example, one river drying up, one asteroid mountain hitting the earth, okay? It means that there'll be multiples of each repeatedly. Okay? And again, let's take a look at the heavy rains that are happening. Okay? 15 inches of rain in Dallas, Fort Worth. All right? I think they said 10 inches of rain in St. Louis. Okay? Well, what does all this mean, this flooding? The flooding, the drying, the flooding. Well, Mike from Around the World for Paul Begley puts a different spin on it. Okay? But that spin is incorrect, to be quite frank. What God is doing is he is showing the nations, hey, look at me. I can flood your city in 18 hours. He did it in Tennessee, in the United States. He is showing Joe Biden and the Antichrist, okay, that I can flood you in 15 hours. Now, do you believe that I, the Father, the God of the universe and the God of the earth, do you now believe that I flooded the earth for Noah and saved him and his family and all the animals? Do you believe it? So he is driving the story of the flood right into the minds of leaders who suffer these floods. And the sad part of it all is, folks, is it's the people that suffer. But then we have to look at, when we look at that it's not the government leaders and their palaces, okay, and their wealth, their limousines, their yachts. They're not the ones that are suffering. It's the people that are suffering, right? So when we look at that, this is what God did in Egypt thousands of years ago with his wonders against Pharaoh. Pharaoh didn't suffer. He was a king, just like Biden, just like Vladimir Putin, just like President Xi of China, just like the Prime Minister of the UK, and the leader of Iraq, the leader of Iran, the leader of these countries, the leaders of Europe. Okay? What's also going on here in this, like it was thousands of years ago with the wonders against Pharaoh, Pharaoh didn't suffer at all. The people of Egypt suffered. And this was God's way of turning the people against their evil leaders, like Pharaoh. And the people were begging Pharaoh to let the Hebrews go, that our people, my people, begging him. And they just suffered and suffered. The Egyptian people suffered immensely. Now, my people, the Hebrew people, my forefathers, lived in Goshen. Okay? And in the beginning, when God slammed Pharaoh with his wonders, and Moses went and told Pharaoh that if he did not bow and let the people go, this was going to happen, right? And it happened right away, which is true, okay? But you see, God saw that in the beginning, when he started the wonders against Pharaoh, he noted that the people of Goshen were also suffering from the wonders. So at some point, God came along and said, no more are the children of Goshen's cattle going to die along with Pharaoh's. So he stopped and ensured that his wonders did not affect my forefathers, the Hebrew people who lived in the city of Goshen. Only Pharaoh and the Egyptian people, you see. So that's what we're seeing now. That's what we're seeing. It's not these rich government officials, these leaders. They all live in palaces and they have their security and they have their riches and they have lots of food, lots of water. They got enough water to last them 100, 200 years, okay? And he can't get at them with his wonders. So what he does is he uses his wonders against their populaces, like he did in Egypt, so that the populaces rise up against the governments. This is what he's doing. So far, Canada has been out of the loop on this. Canada hasn't suffered, okay? But I'm telling you, Canada is going to get it real bad, okay? You see, because God saves the best for last, right? What is it Jesus said? He said, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. And for those of you who view the religious portion of my videos, you're in for quite a shock, aren't you? You see, this here counts for nothing. I mean, this here counts for something. I'm sorry. This menorah counts for something. Because when you have God with you, he can, you see, this is what people forget, okay? Remember what God said to Moses, right? He said, I'm going to go into Pharaoh's heart and mind and harden his heart. And I'm going to harden his heart because I want to keep punishing him. So I'm not going to allow him to let the people go on the first round, right? He said, I'm going to harden his heart. Now, this was an important message in Exodus for all people because it told us something about God. What did it tell us? It told us that God can control the minds of leaders. And he can make them do and say whatever he wants. Now look, remember that Pharaoh was resistant, wasn't he? Right? He would summon Moses, right, after an event, and he would say to Moses, please stop this. Ask God to stop this. Okay, I'll let your people go. And then he'd say something like, I'll let the children of Israel go with you, Moses, out into the wilderness for 3 days to pray to your God and serve him. But you have to return to Egypt, right? That's God doing that. Okay? You see, and he's doing the same thing to the NATO leaders in particular. Okay? Trudeau and his monkeys, his Nazis, Biden, and other, the leaders of the UK and NATO and so on, okay? What's he doing? He's hardening their hearts. That's why they won't listen. That's why they won't stop their warmongering. That's why. That's why they won't stop in the South China Sea against China, right? You have to understand something. God said, now here's another very important point, and I'm going to explain this, okay? It's said by God that the armies are going to meet in the Valley of Megiddo. Now, I did some research years ago, okay, and I concluded that the great war against Israel by the nations is not going to happen in the Valley of Megiddo. No, it was me that came forward and said the Valley of Jehoshaphat. That was me. And then recently I heard someone else say that. But it was me. I called the State Department. I remember calling them during the Kerry secretaryship at the State Department, John Kerry, okay? The 15-second messages, I used to leave a lot of them. I just hit 21 because I knew they were all being recorded anyway and not erased, so I just hit 21, right? And one day I called the Secretary of State and I told him that. I said to Secretary Kerry in a message, I said, Mr. Secretary, the great war against Israel is not going to be in the Valley of Megiddo. No. The Valley of Jehoshaphat is where the armies are going to gather. All right. Now, what does it say regarding that? It says, when the armies of the nations gather to destroy Israel. Okay. Now, they're talking about the Valley of Megiddo, not the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay. God said, I will come down and he'll attack them. And the soldiers' eyes will pluck out of their heads before they hit the ground. That's what he said, right? What does that mean? Well, let me tell you something. It's a real horror story. Okay, and I know what that meant. Now, when I read that, okay, I knew right away what he was saying. Let me explain this to you. There's only one way I know of, okay, that can cause soldiers' eyes to pop out of their heads before they hit the ground. And what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about something of mankind's. Okay? Now, God, the problem here is it's confusing for people, and even for me at times, because God uses armies and countries sometimes against other countries. He does this, you know. Now, it means one of two things. It means either when these armies gather at the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the nations, to destroy the Jewish people, okay, it means either a nuclear weapon is used, and this will blow the sockets right out of their eyes, okay? They'll die standing up. This will happen before they hit the ground, okay? Or it means some kind of miraculous event from the heavens, or some other miraculous event by God, okay, which will cause this. So it can only mean one of the two. All right? Usually, when it's God who says this is going to happen, it's not related to the nation's military army technologies. Remember that God hates wars, hates them. He hates tanks, he hates guns, he hates warships. When I was young, I used to love warships. I built them all. I built every single World War II English warship I could think of. The models were made by a company called Airfix, little plastic models. I built aircraft carriers, you know, when I was a boy. I had the Warspite, the Hood, the Repulse, the King George V, the Vanguard, you know. I had the Victoria aircraft carrier that was used in World War II to attack the Bismarck. I had numerous models of the Bismarck, German torpedo boats, U-boats, you name it. When I was a kid, I built them all. Okay? And American aircraft carriers had the Enterprise, big model. You know, I had the 1/200 scale Nichimo Yamato. You know, I had that cost a lot of money, that model, and that was $200 when I was 12, 13 years old. The Nichimo 1/200 scale model of the Yamato. I built them all. You know, but now you see, you have to understand something. I hate guns. I don't like I don't even look anymore at warships, or I have no interest really in these things. I won't even look at videos of model radio controlled warships. The models I build are, you know, tugboats, and I got one on the wall, a set of plans for a Coast Guard utility boat that I'm going to build. Okay, so I don't like these things anymore. I have nothing to do, because God hates them. You know, God hates them. Now that may contradict what I said about China. What I'm saying about China is that China has a right to Taiwan. I mean, it's theirs, okay? And I don't want to see them take it by force, you know, because hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Taiwanese people, women and children, are going to die because of their idiot government, okay, who refuses to even talk to China about returning, even over a prolonged time period of adjustment. Okay, this is the way it should be done, peaceably, right? But China does have a right to Taiwan, okay? And if they invade Taiwan, all right, they have a right to take it back. They do. It's theirs, you know? I'm going to tell you people something. It is the United States government that's the most evil, filthy government on the face of the earth. They are Nazi devils. And the U.S. government is the Antichrist government. And I watch, folks, how they deceive everyone. Like, I'm telling you this, okay? Israel's corrupted because, the Israeli government, I mean, is corrupted because of Washington. Not because of Russia and China, because of Washington. My position on Iran is Iran hates the United States, okay? And they look at Israel like they're the U.S., you see? So, this is really the truth. You know, do I believe that Iran wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth? That the Ayatollah Khomeini is some dirty, filthy Nazi who simply wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth? No. I don't. No, he's not a Nazi. I'm not buying that one. Okay. Mind you, Iran is killing my people. I mean, you know, they're filthy terrorists. Hezbollah and Hamas are killing my people. No matter what their reasons are. Okay, you don't kill innocent civilians and women and children. Nobody does that. Israel shouldn't do that. Okay, you don't murder women and children. You do not murder these innocent people on all sides. And they're all doing this. Even Zelensky is doing this. He's murdering his own people. And this is being ignored. The Russians said, well, who is the United States to talk about human rights? Oh, that's absolutely true. The United States government doesn't believe in human rights. Are you kidding? Look what Rodney King. Just as an example, Look what happened to George Floyd, Julian Assange, Edward Snowden. Okay? Where is the United States head at? They're evil. The United States government's evil. They've infected Canada. They brought their evils here, too. And my wife and I have suffered dearly from some of them. These people are Nazis. I mean, they're, the war against Russia and China is, the threat of war is coming from Nazis, okay? This is the truth. In 2014, President Vladimir Putin came forward and he said that one of Russia's chief concerns is Nazification of Western security. Now, listen to me. He said that publicly, President Putin of Russia, to the Russian people in 2014. It was in the media. Now, he made a mistake doing that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because as soon as he said that, NATO knew that Russian spying, Russian spy, the spy agency of Russia, knew about how big the Nazis were in NATO. Okay? So really, Vladimir Putin dropped the ball. And when he did that, he couldn't pick it up. And as soon as NATO knew that he knew, and they would have known, he would know the extent, okay? That's when the hammer started falling on Russia by NATO, the United States, and Canada, because they wanted to silence the Russian president on the evidence that he has. Let me tell you folks something, and I've said this many times. I'm going to say this to you now. Listen to me. The reason why, after World War II, the Soviet Union formed the KGB, for which Vladimir Putin was at one point the leader of the KGB. There was a reason why they did that. You people are led to believe, Canadians and Americans and so on, you're all led to believe that the KGB was formed to be spies, okay, to spy out Western technology and that kind of thing. That's not why the KGB was formed. You've been deceived by your own governments. I know why the KGB was created by Joseph Stalin after the war. I know why, and I'm about to tell you. But let me first tell you something. Just like the American government in Washington, they've got underground basements full of archives, okay, historical war archives of World War II, the American government. For example, Eric Larson, the author of the book In the Garden of Beasts, okay, he was given access to those archives for his book, okay? And that's why his book, In the Garden of Beasts, is so true, because they're based on archival diaries by William E. Dodd and Martha Dodd, okay? And that's what the book is essentially based on, is William E. Dodd's ambassadorship for the United States in Berlin from 1933 to 1937, okay? Dodd came back to the United States very sick and frail. When he went to Germany, he was an anti-Semitist. He didn't like the Jews. Okay? When he left Germany and went back to the United States, he did nothing but run around to every audience he could in the United States, frail, stating Hitler's going to kill all the Jews, and very worried, you see. So he got the cold reality of Hitler while he was there. Okay? And he completely reversed his anti-Semitic beliefs when he returned to the United States. All right? And I want to tell you about that. Now, we're back to the KGB. So in Moscow, I believe under the Kremlin, but I'm not certain, but I think the vaults are under the Kremlin. Now, there is a vault, and I think it's under the Kremlin. Don't quote me, it might not be. I'm just guessing, okay? Or it could be under a vault underneath the old KGB building, the KGB's head office in Moscow, okay? It could be there, I'm not sure. But one of these vaults, okay, the size of an Olympic-sized pool, that has a ceiling 8 feet high, is loaded full to the ceiling completely. Every bit of floor space with boxes of documents, of KGB operations against NATO from 1945 to the time Russia dropped the Soviet communist system and became a democracy. And that one room has proof, because you see, the KGB's target was NATO. Oh, this is true. But why? Because the KGB spent from 1945 until Russia fell as a communist state during the Reagan era, okay, monitoring the restart of the Nazi Reich in Western states. And they have all the evidence, documented evidence, proving it, you see. So when Putin dropped the bombshell in 2014, okay, that Russia was worried about renazification of security in the West, and this was going on, okay, he already knew it was going on, which means that's when NATO found out that when the former Soviet Union started the KGB after the war, what was their number one target? Well, all of their spies were focused on the Nazis in the new democratic governments of Europe, Canada, the United States, and the rest of NATO. And they watched them build and build in secret insecurity since the end of World War II. That's what happened. So when Putin dropped the ball on this in 2014, these Western leaders knew. And they were scared that he was going to pull up all the files from the vaults and prove it publicly. So they started sanctioning Russia, right? When Putin dropped the ball, they realized, okay, he knows. So what did they do in the Ukraine? They had the Nazi Azov Battalion attack Donbass and Lugansk, okay? The Russian people there. So they decided, since Putin knew anyway, the West would start supporting this Nazi movement in the Ukraine, which was huge. You know, they said 20, 30, 40,000 members? No, 150,000 members, and in the Ukrainian army, and in Ukrainian civilian police, you see. So they decided to give Putin what he had already known already. And that is what happened. I have repeatedly sent messages to the Russian government, to their mission in New York. I stopped doing it now, email messages asking President Putin to bring out the files of the KGB on the Nazi Reich. You see, I told you in an earlier video, I didn't post it yet, I will. But you see, Adolf Hitler had two plans, okay? He had planned for the 1,000-year Reich if he lost the war, and he planned for the 1,000-year Reich if he won the war. There were two plans, you see? And his second plan is the one the KGB followed since 1945 and was collecting evidence on. Do you understand? That's why the Soviet Union remained the Soviet Union for so long, okay? And I believe that the Russian government has shared these archives with President Xi of China. Do you understand? That's what happened. Anyways, I got to go. Shalom, God bless. And thank you, YouTube, for letting me post these. And soon, I'm going to put some pressure on to stop Trudeau in Canada from limiting my videos, okay, to only who they will allow to see them. So I'll be working on that over the course of the next few weeks, okay? So shalom, God bless. And you people see the other side of me, right? You know, and you will have the opportunity to see my videos and see this video and the other ones, and you're going to have a clear understanding of what I'm all about. Okay? The punishment by God against mankind is going to get worse. Now, I want to tell you one more thing. I saw a video last night by this man in Arizona. His name, he calls himself Mr. BB333. And every now and again I check to see what he's posting, you know. And he posted a video of something coming across the dark side of the earth and the whole earth turning dark. A shadow moved right across. And I examined this video very carefully. Okay? I know what it is. It is a sign from God indicating the whole earth is full of darkness. That's what that was. That came from our God of the Jewish people. That's who did that. And he wanted the satellite to see it, so the public would see it. And he is saying, God is saying in this action, that the earth is full of darkness and evil. Be warned, governments, by what I'm saying to you. And finally, I'm going to let something loose here that I have not mentioned in any video. You see, I am a prophet of God for the Jewish people. Yeah. And I will tell you that there are those that envy me. There are those politicians who know I am. Okay? There are those that hate me that know I am. Now, for those Jewish people who believe this to be so, as it was with Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, Noah, Enoch, Joshua, okay, Jesus Christ, even King David was a prophet. Okay? This is my bloodline. Aaron and his sons were prophets. Okay? And I'm of the bloodline of the Levites. Yeah, that's right. Levites. The high priest, you see. And they know it. But let me tell you something. You Jewish people out there, my brothers and sisters, listen to me. All of you, all of the tribes, okay? You have to be of a certain kind of character for God to choose you as a prophet. Okay? You have to, it's not an easy job. You're hated everywhere. The whole earth hates you. They want you dead everywhere. You see, this is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not an easy job. And most Jewish people wouldn't be able to do it. And if the ones that have historically paid quite a high price, they killed them because they hated them. When God sends a prophet, usually the news is bad, okay? Usually when he sends a prophet, it means that he's about to tell the Jewish people that they're going to be severely punished by him. And this, I'm talking about here thousands of years ago, okay? And when the prophet made the prophecies and they started coming true, there were contracts put out on them to kill them, and they were killed. But my father said, no longer am I going to allow you to kill my prophets. You see? And this is one of the reasons why I'm still here, because of him. It's God that saves me. It's God that protects me. It's him. And I'm going to tell you something. He controls the minds of the evil ones who did these things. Okay? And he has reasons for doing that. Not to punish me, but to show me what they're all about. Now, Ramses was evil. I mean, he killed lots of Hebrews. Lots of our people he killed. There was more than 400,000. Okay? But he killed them. It was 400,000 that escaped alive from Egypt, all right? But the numbers of Jewish people that he killed are probably 200,000 to 300,000. Because you see, when the Hebrew people, you see, Joseph was the one that brought Jacob and Jacob's sons, the tribes of Israel, to live in Egypt, right? It was Joseph, all right? When Jacob died, Joseph carried his body outside of Egypt, okay, for burial, because Jacob did not want to be buried in Egypt, you see. So the people took Jacob's body out to bury it. And you see, it was Joseph and the other sons of Jacob that remained in Egypt and lived there. And as a matter of record, the Hebrew mothers had 10 times the birth rate of their Egyptian counterparts. Okay? 10 times the birth rate. The Jewish population of the Hebrew people in Goshen, okay? The reason why Pharaoh, not the Pharaoh of Joseph's time, the Pharaoh of Joseph's time loved Joseph, okay? But the coming pharaohs, what happened is they got worried that the Pharaoh that started this got worried because the Hebrew people's birthing rate was 10 to 20 times higher than the Egyptians. They were having children left, right, and center, and because the Jewish women's wombs were blessed by God, right? You see, that's what happened. And they're having babies left, right, and center, you know. And so Pharaoh got worried that the Jews would eventually overpopulate the Egyptian people and take over the country. And he was an evil Pharaoh, and he decided he had to do something about that. So he took all our people and put them in bondage. That's what he did, you see. Anyways, I better let you go. This video is already 45 minutes and 11 seconds. So listen, God bless. Have a wonderful day. And I'll post this now for people to see. Okay? Shalom.